Take off. So you know what?
Yeah, my very good morning to all of you.
Now
Distinguished guest
it is
for the day,
right.
Dr. Montek
वन
Singh
ईयर
Ahluwalia,
वन ईयर
respected Chairman Sadar MPS
आगे आगे
Chatterjee,
आगे
our college principal Dr. JB Singh, esteemed faculty, and my very dear students. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you today to commence the Dr. Manmohan Singh Lecture Series at our college. It is being organized by the Seminar Committee and the Center of Excellence with the aim of helping our students gain a deeper understanding of Dr. Manmohan Singh's contribution to shaping modern India. In today's lecture to the life and legacy of Dr. Manmohan Singh ji and launching this series with the lecture titled Manmohan Singh Steering India Through Global Economic Challenges. To inaugurate the series, we are incredibly fortunate to have Padma Vibhushan Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia as our distinguished guest. He has worked closely with Dr. Manmohan Singh, Dr. Ahluwalia as a trusted associate and a key player in implementing many of Dr. Singh's policies, has a unique insight into the strategic decisions and the vision behind those crucial policies. His expertise and experience will help us gain a richer perspective and profound understanding of how Dr. Manmohan Singh's leadership and economic policies have shaped the India we see today. I welcome you all to this momentous and enriching event. We are truly privileged to have such a distinguished speaker with us today. As we gather here to celebrate the intellectual legacy and leadership of one of India's most distinguished statesmen, I would like to reflect on Dr. Manmohan Singh's prestige, global recognition, achievements, and the immense international influence he commanded throughout his tenure. His intellect, humility, and the simplicity have left an indelible remark on all those who have had the privilege of working alongside him. Please allow me to take a moment to highlight Dr. Singh's extraordinary educational background, the awards he received, his impactful roles in the government, and his distinctive non-political style of governance, which has set him apart as a unique figure in the annals of Indian history. Dr. Singh excelled academically throughout his career, securing the top position in his class at Punjab University, where he pursued studies in economics. He graduated with bachelor's degree in 1952, followed by master's degree in 1954. After completing his doctorate from University of Oxford in the year 1962, Dr. Singh returned to India and started teaching as a senior lecturer of economics at Punjab University. He taught there until 1965, where from 1963 to 1965 he was an economic professor. From 1966 to 1969, he worked for United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. From 1969 to 1971, Dr. Singh was a professor of international trade at Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. In recognition of his expertise as an economist, Dr. Singh was entrusted with several key positions in the government of India, including Chief Economic Advisor from 1972 to 76, Governor of Reserve Bank 1982 to 85, and Head of the Planning Commission 1985 to 1987. In 1991, as India faced a severe economic crisis, he then, the newly elected Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao, inducted him in his cabinet as Finance Minister of India. Over the next few years, despite strong opposition, he carried out several structural reforms that liberalized Indian economy. These measures proved successful in averting the crisis and enhanced Dr. Singh's reputation globally as a leading reform-minded economist. Subsequently, during 1998-2004, Dr. Singh was the leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha during Atal Bihari Vajpayee government. From 1952 to 2000, Dr. Singh received 25 prestigious prizes and awards, including the Rice Prize for Distinguished Performance in 1955, Adam Smith Prize in 1956, both from the University of Cambridge. Other notable honors include being named Honorary Professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University in 1976, receiving the Padma Vibhushan Award from President of India in 1987, and the Asia Money Finance Minister of the Year Award in 1993. He was also honored as honorary professor at the Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi in 1996. He received the Justice K.S. Hegde Foundation Award in 1997 and H.H. Kanchi Shri Padmachara Award for Excellence from Shri R. Venkataraman, former President of India in 1997. He was recipient of honorary degrees of D.Litt from 16 universities, to name few: Punjab University, Chandigarh; Guru Nanak University, Amritsar; Delhi University, Delhi; Sri Venkateshwar University, Tirupati, and University of Bologna, Italy, and University of Mysore. In 2004, Dr. Singh was taken by surprise when Congress-led UPA government came to power. Its chairperson, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, unexpectedly chose to relinquish the prime ministership in favor of Dr. Singh, and he became the 13th Prime Minister of India. This is the position. This is the position he had neither aspired nor had dreamed of. Because of Dr. Singh's profound academic credentials, especially in economics in India as well as globally, to date he is regarded as one of the most educated and accomplished prime ministers. In any position Dr. Singh held, whether as governor of RBI, finance minister, or prime minister, he never sought the limelight. His focus has always been on serving the people of India. His actions have spoken far louder than words ever could. This blend of intellect, simplicity, and commitment to the public good makes him an exemplary leader of our times. History will be kinder to me than the contemporary media. This statement was much ahead of its time. With these words, Dr. Manmohan Singh summed up the challenges and nuances of public life. As one of the most respected economists in the world and a leader who steered India through some of the most transformative years, his tenure was not without controversies. In the simple statement, Dr. Singh acknowledged a timeless truth that the perceptions of the present often fail to capture the full complexity of person's contributions. It reflected not just his profound understanding of history, but also his recognition of the limitations of media perceptions in the fast paced, often sensational world of contemporary news. As one of the architects of India's economic transformation, Dr. Singh's tenure as Prime Minister was marked by a blend of practicality and intellectual rigor. While the media often portrayed him in moments of silence and restraint, Dr. Singh's legacy is far from quiet. It is defined by decisive action, strategic vision, and the steadfast commitment to India's growth and global stature. I am sure this statement will certainly hold true, and Dr. Singh's contribution to shaping modern India will be remembered as a defining legacy for generations to come. His approach, that was characterized by calm delegation and visionary thinking, earned an admiration not only within India but also on the global stage. In fact, the global stature of Dr. Singh was summed up by none other than the former President of the United States, Barack Obama. He said, "When Manmohan Singh speaks, the whole world listens." This statement, this statement underscores the immense respect Dr. Singh commanded worldwide as a leader whose thoughts were not only listened to but deeply valued by global powers. Such global recognition speaks to the enduring impact of his leadership, grounded in profound knowledge and unwavering integrity. Dr. Manmohan Singh embodied humility, grace, and integrity in both his professional and personal life. Despite his towering achievements in Indian politics and economics, he remained remarkably simple and grounded. One of the most striking aspects of his personality was his unassuming nature, which set him apart from many of his contemporaries. In an age where power often brings with it an air of arrogance and pretension, Dr. Singh always maintained a quiet dignity. As Javed Akhtar aptly stated in his tribute speech to Dr. Manmohan Singh, he said, "Dr. Singh never made false promises, nor did he ever praise himself." He then goes on to pose the question, what kind of politician was he? He himself answers this question and says that in truth he was not a politician. He further emphasized that in fact it was our great fortune that such an intellectual served as Prime Minister of a country for good 10 years. Some have claimed he was a good person, but a weak leader. However, my dear friends, The sad reality is that in our country we often equate loud speeches with strength, but we all know shallow waters are noisy, but deep waters are silent. At the end, I would like to emphasize that Dr. Manmohan Singh consistently devoted himself to the nation, dedicating his career and nearly his entire professional life towards the service of India. As we embark on this lecture series in his honor, let us not only reflect on his monumental contribution to the nature, to the nation, but also draw inspiration from his nature, his work ethic, and his quiet but powerful leadership. It is these qualities that define true essence of Dr. Manmohan Singh, and it is these qualities that we must strive to emulate in our life as we strive to make a difference in the world. In our Dr. Manmohan Singh lecture series, we aim to organize numerous such lectures throughout the academic session, exploring various aspects of Indian economy. However, today we focus on honoring Manmohan Singh's extraordinary legacy, one that goes beyond media headlines and echoes throughout the history. And I take great pride in sharing that Dr. Manmohan Singh graced our college as the chief guest during our annual day in the year 1995 when he was serving as finance minister. With these words, I request Dr. Niko, co-coordinator of Center of Excellence and co-convener of Sustainability, to welcome and introduce the guest formally to the hall. Thank you. Over to Dr. Niko.
Manmohan for a comprehensive recapitulation of extraordinary achievements and legacy of the Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. Distinguished guests are Padma Vibhushan Monty Khanalwala sir, Chairman MPS Raja sir, Principal Professor Jatinder P. Singh sir, esteemed colleagues and dear students. A very good morning to all of you. I warmly welcome you to the inaugural session of the Dr. Manmohan Singh Lecture Series. This is being organized by the Seminar Committee as a Center of Excellence of Shri Guru Gobind Singh College of Commerce. This lecture series aims to host eminent economists to explore various facets of the Indian economy and under the aegis of Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy. It is with great pride that I introduce our speaker for the day, Dr. Monty Khanalwala, a distinguished economist, visionary policymaker, and one of the foremost architects of India's economic reforms. Sir is currently a distinguished fellow at the Center for Social and Economic Progress and an independent public policy think tank. He served as the Deputy Chairman of the Public Commission of India from 2004 to 2014. Dr. Ahluwalia began his career at the World Bank in 1968 as a young professional before joining the Government of India in 1979 as economic advisor in the Ministry of Finance. A key figure in India's economic reforms since the early 1980s, he has held several significant positions. These include Special Secretary to the Prime Minister from 1988 to 1990, Cabinet Secretary from 1990 to 1991, Secretary Department of Economic Affairs from 1991 to 1993, and Finance Secretary from 1992 to 1998. He also served as a member of the Planning Commission and the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister from 1998 to 2001. In 2001, he was appointed the first director of the Independent Evaluation Office of the International Monetary Fund, a role he resigned from in 2004 to assume the position of Deputy Chairman, Planning Commission. Sir graduated with the honours in economics from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi, and was a Rhodes Scholar at the University of Oxford, earning an MA in philosophy, politics, and economics from Boston College and an MPhil from St. Anthony's College. He also served as president of the Oxford Union. Among his many accolades, he has received honorary degrees including a Doctor of Civil Law from the University of Oxford and a Doctor of Philosophy from the Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. He is an honorary fellow of Boston College. Sir has been a pivotal figure in shaping India's economic policies. He has also been a figure in Indian economic policy design overall. He writes on various aspects of development economics and has been published in prominent Indian and international journals and books. He co-authored Redistribution with Growth, an approach to policy, which was published in 1975 and was a path-breaking book on income distribution. In February 2020, he published his book Backstage, the story behind India's high growth years, and an insider's account of policy making from 1985 to 2014. For his outstanding contributions to economic policy and public service, he was conferred the prestigious Padma Vibhushan in 2011, India's second highest civilian award. His expertise in macroeconomic policy, fiscal management, and economic strategy has earned him global recognition. His leadership as Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission was instrumental in driving economic growth, social sector reforms, and infrastructure development, leaving an indelible mark on India's progress. I now request Chairman Sir to felicitate Padma Vibhushan Mondeep Sir with a shot. I also request Principal Sir to welcome Sir by presenting him with a plant and a book. I also request Principal Sir to welcome Sir by presenting him with a plant and a book.
कैमरामैन को बोलो कोई आ रहा है अंदर कोई आ ही नहीं रहा समझाओ नहीं
I request Principal Sir to felicitate Chairman Sir with a plant and a shawl. I now request Dr. Vaibhav Puri, the Leader Seminar Committee, to present Principal Sir with a plant and a book. अच्छा मंगा I now invite Principal Sir to deliver the opening remarks.
Respected Manmohan Singh Ahluwalia, our honorable guest for today, LPS Chadha who is the chairman of the body, my colleagues, guests, and young students. When the request for institutionalizing Manmohan Singh's lecture came from our chairman of the body, Dadaji, who told me that the entire world is so adapted to Manmohan Singh for economic policy. The College of Commerce, Shri Guru Gobind Singh College of Commerce, should have a lecture series. It is in the initial lecture we talk about Dr. Manmohan Singh's policies about what he rolled out. And in the later years, we also had discussion of the economic policy. So we thought the Manmohan Singh lecture series, the first lecture we will talk about the Manmohan Singh policy and how he rolled out the economic plans. But in the later years, it will become kind of policy discussions as to what kind of policy the country needs, and the immediate economists will come and deliver lectures. So the students and larger community of students will be able to understand how their policies are being driven, and it becomes a kind of a fertile ground for students to know as to how policies are made, and in the social context in which they are made, and the economic setup in which they are rolled out. Because it is easy to make economic policies. Because you have a congress, you have a congress like Monte Carlo, you have a congress like Coffee. You have a congress, but they have to operate in the social economic framework where when you get to the grassroots, the things are become difficult to implement. So it's a trial and error where you make certain policies and implement, roll it out, and then there are issues. Many of you are very young, most majority of you young, about 18, 19, 20 years. So you have not heard of what happened in 1991. Because 1991 was a period when Manmohan Singh government, when Manmohan Singh rolled out those economic reforms, and we had few weeks of border exchange. Now we have $650 billion of border exchange. But at that point of time, the Indian economy had barely 2 weeks of border exchange, and that means if you want to import oil, you don't have the border exchange to import oil. And you know, if they're not able to import oil, then how does the economy function? The entire economy would collapse. So, the text was that the border exchange was not much, and that we had to borrow money from IMF or other places. So that was the context. Because that was also the context that the previous policies were rationalized and they were given a new shape. Because the previous policies where we talk about the Gandhi import substitution and the control regime, that was gradually liberalized. So that now we have an area where most of the policies are liberal. So I think the seed was planted in 1981 when the economic liberalization started happening in India. The other countries like South Korea, Japan, and China at different points of time, they also started reforming their economies. Because there is a context, when the Mao was ruling India and he died in 76, and then the Deng Xiaoping, then he liberalized the economy. He rolled out from 78 onwards Deng's contribution in liberalizing Chinese economy. It was marvelous. And you know what China is today. And for a communist country who have economic policies that are capitalist, it is I great wonder of the world as how in a controlled regime like socialism you will plant seeds of capitalism and you become kind of second biggest economy of the world. But where India is placed today, you all young people, and where India is placed today, you will be knowing that where how the Manmohan Singh regime or Singh Ahluwalia will explain to you how the policies were implemented, how the liberalization in terms of change rate liberalization, because the change rate nowadays when you want to travel, you can go to the money lender or you can get to the change person and change your rupee with dollar. But the change rate that was controlled, so it was liberalized, and also the control regimes were gradually also unwinded. So a lot of the fiscal responsibility came into being. The government fiscal prudence was implemented. The license charge was relaxed. So all those measures were implemented at that point of time, and I think now that we are in India, where we are thinking of that by 2047 India will be a developed state. But what is required is that the transition from 25 or 47 also has to be very conducive for rate of growth of the Indian economy to double up. Because 5% will not do. Because if you go at 5% rate of interest, rate of growth, then by 47 we will be only $14,000 per capita. But that's not developed. That's like equivalent to what is China today. China is about 14,000, and we will be by 47. If we go at 5%, it will be 14,000. So India needs to develop at roughly 10%. And that will take your economy to a developed country. But you know, the country will develop by slow clearing. You can't raise a slogan and then the country will start developing. It needs to have a rational economic policies. And because we are living in a world today which is very protectionist. You look at how the Trump is making American economy a very protectionist economy. One day, every day he wakes up and imposes tariffs on X, Y, Z countries. So we are not in that world where China developed. China developed in an era, Japan developed in an era, South Korea developed in an era where the world was free. They were tariffs were reduction, WTO was there. But we are now in India in a regime where the protectionist tendencies are erupting. So that external trade as an engine of growth is missing in India. So we are really worried as to how India's economy will grow from 5% to 10%, so that by 2047 India becomes a developed country. I am not expert in the policy making. Dr. Manmohan Singh Ahluwalia probably, if you have time for an answer, he will be able to answer some of your queries. But I'm so delighted and honored that Dr. Manmohan Singh Ahluwalia has blessed us and agreed to be with us for the annual lecture on Dr. Manmohan Singh lecture series. And nobody else could have been a better person than Manmohan Singh Ahluwalia because he wrote lectures with Dr. Manmohan Singh. He was the deputy chairperson of the Planning Commission, first by the Planning Commission, now called the JKO. And he was quite in the thick of policy making. So we want to hear from him as to how he thought about the era and what is the roadmap for future for a country like India, of which we all citizens. We want our country to grow. We want a country like India to be a mature state, developed state, so that we all can say right that yes, we are the citizens of India, which is a developed country. Thank you so much, all of you, and thank you also Dr. Manmohan Singh Ahluwalia for being here and assessing the students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful words. As you pointed out, it is imperative for the students to know and understand the social setup in which policies are designed, as well as the economic framework in which these policies are rolled out. We are also in a precarious situation with the rise of protectionist policies which threaten our growth and development. I now request Chair Chada sir to share his views on today's session.
Good morning, everybody. We have just heard the live sketch of Dr. Manmohan Singh and Dr. Manmohan Singh. When I was listening the biography of both the leaders, I think there was no difference. But Manmohan Singh was some step ahead and Manmohan Singh was again almost in all the economic affairs, Dr. Manmohan Singh and Dr. Manmohan Singh, I feel they were together. And we can call both of them as one. That is why our college decided to listen to Ahluwalia regarding Dr. Manmohan Singh, or Madam explained the whole history of Dr. Manmohan Singh. What is left for somebody else to speak? Everything is covered. But today you will listen how Dr. Manmohan Singh and Dr. Ahluwalia, how close they were. And even few days back, I went to the residence of Dr. Manmohan Singh and Dr. Ahluwalia was sitting there. And really, it proved that he was the family member of Dr. Manmohan Singh, and I was glad to see him as a family member in the house. Now, what I have to say, everything is already covered, and everything will be again explained to you by Dr. Ahluwalia. I will speak only few words in my mind. I had the first opportunity to meet Dr. Manmohan Singh at Punjabi Bagh at the residence of my sister. he was there because I was just new to him. No subject was there to discuss. But it came to my mind that at about 20 to 25 minutes, he was thinking, moving in the dining room, and he was thinking, what does he knew that in future I have to run the country and I have to shape the economic position of India. So, since that day, I can say he was the think tank of India. Again, there was no conversation on that day. Again, we met in Kangaroo again. Then I became the member of the Discipline Government. And he knew each and everything, all activities of the Discipline Government, the committee which we discussed it between him and me. He was aware what is happening in the Discipline Government. I was surprised that at such high stature, even he had made the studies of the Discipline Committee. Why? Because he was sick and he was really determined. That is why he recognized every step of the Discipline. Again, also a few days back, I went to his house. We discussed many things, and really, the aim was there. We could not control, but we have all regards, love, respect, and we can say salute to Dr. Manmohan Singh, the former Prime Minister of India. Today, again, we are back. I went to the residence and Dr. Manmohan was there, he was sitting there, and along with Mrs. Sharon Court, we requested her yesterday to be present today, but she could not manage. And anyhow, the day of today's program and the start of the speeches will be sent to her that today we honored Dr. Manmohan Singh. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightened perspective. And as I rightly pointed out, both Dr. Manmohan Singh and Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy are inspiring. In fact, as we said, Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Bank of India. Today, we are privileged to hear from Honorable Ahluwalia sir on a topic of immense significance, Manmohan Singh, steering India through global economic challenges. As someone who worked closely with Dr. Manmohan Singh during the historic economic liberalization of 1991 and beyond, Dr. Ahluwalia brings a unique and deeply informed perspective to the discussion. His first-hand experience in navigating India through economic transformations, coupled with his profound understanding of global economic trends, made him the perfect person to illuminate Dr. Singh's leadership during challenging times. With great respect and anticipation, I invite Dr. Manmohan Singh to deliver the inaugural lecture of the Dr. Manmohan Singh Lecture Series.
Thank you. Thank you, Chakra. Principal Singh, Head of Department, Community Quality, for inviting me on this occasion. When I accepted the invitation, I said that I'd like to focus really on the future rather than the past. But this is a lecture series, if you like, honoring Dr. Manmohan Singh. So I think it's appropriate to say some words about the past also. First of all, the speakers that have gone before me have laid down very clearly the extraordinary contribution that Dr. Singh made to India and India's economic policy. I was privileged to be part of his team. I regarded him really as a sort of mentor and inspiration. And it was really both a pleasure and also a great education to be part of that team. I learned a lot from my interactions with Dr. Singh. It's very difficult to focus a lecture to a modern young audience. I mean, the vast majority of the people present here were not born when Dr. Singh was making the path-breaking changes that took place in 1991. And I'm very conscious that if you want to make someone a reality to younger people, it should be made relevant to their experiences. And I'm going to try and do that. One thing is that everything I have to say about whatever I learned is already in my book Backstage, which someone very kindly referred to. And nowadays, I don't expect younger people to actually read a book. Just go to ChatGPT and say, what does Monty Alvarez said in Backstage, and you can get a pretty good summary. In fact, I suggested to the principal earlier that it would be a bad idea nowadays for all lectures to consist of declaring the subject a week in advance and telling everybody to just get an answer from ChatGPT or any one of these other large language model applications, and simply have the lecturer ask students to ask questions. In other words, critique the common sort of perception. Because the common perception can be reduced to 500 words, 1,000 words, 2,000, you just indicate. If you go to ChatGPT, maybe 3,000 words on what has Mr. Alvarez said in Backstage, huge. If you don't have the time, just say 500 words and then we give that also. So actually, I always felt it's best to announce the subject, go there and ask people to ask questions, and then use the questions to fill out what they really want to know. Now, I did do this earlier, so I can't sort of do this now, but I do want to focus more on the future than on the past. Let me, however, say a few things about the past. Number one, Dr. Singh's personal attributes, just his personality, is a very important part of how he handled himself professionally. A lot of people talk about him being humble. That's because we think being humble is good. So when people say he's humble, they really mean a really nice guy. I don't like the word humble. That's a separate. I think the interesting thing about him is he was very reflective and very keen to learn, and never thought that he knew more about the problem that people were talking to. So I think in that sense he was very consultative. He didn't come to a problem saying, okay, I'm the finance minister, I know everything, this is what you have to do. He sort of said, it's a very complicated problem, the different kinds of people have different reactions, let's find out what you think, and so on. So I want to tell you a story. Going back in 1991, when we knew that big changes had to be made. He was then the finance minister, Mr. Narasimha Rao was prime minister, and there was a crisis, which I think has been explained. It was really Well, it's a very good thing to have a crisis every now and then. History teaches that you overcome a crisis very quickly. It's not as if you have a crisis, you keep going down. Some countries do. But any sensibly managed country looks at the crisis and says, hey, this is a problem. We've got to do things differently. And doing things differently creates an atmosphere of asking questions. In that process, you don't just manage the crisis, you actually make more fundamental changes. I think it's very important to realize that 1991 was such an occasion. If you had simply said, this is a crisis, we run out of funds, we're not having a crisis, we could have done that in 2 years. And actually we did, because by 1993 the crisis was over. But what happened was, there's a recognition that look, the reason why the country is doing as well, other countries are doing, is because of the wrong economic system. And believe me, the system that we had in 1991 was just stupid. I'm now old enough to say the kinds of things that I would never have said when I was 50. It's just stupid. And minus the crisis, nobody would have had the courage to say that this is stupid and not stupid. He took that opportunity. Dr. Rao also deserves credit because as Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh would not have been able to do anything. Manmohan Singh backed. And he was aware, Dr. Rao was perfectly aware, that what Manmohan Singh is going to do is to undo what his own party has done for the last 20 years. And Dr. Singh told me that he said to Narasimha, this is going to create political problems. And Narasimha very wisely said, look, Manmohan, it's your job to get the economics right. It's my job to handle the politics. If you succeed, we will share the credit. If you fail, you will get the blame. And I think that's a very reasonable way of conducting yourself in the government. He knew that and he did it, and he succeeded. And I think they both deserve credit, although clearly the reforms were in detail, I mean, he was the architect of the whole thing. And a very important part of this whole thing is how it was done. Now, shortly after the government took over, we called a meeting of all the secretaries of different departments. Each one of these fellows had been running the whole system, and it was going to be dismantled. So what Dr. Singh said is, we have a crisis, we're going to make big changes, we need your help. Without your help, I know that you can just pick it up. We need your help. Second, if you don't like the way we are going to move, there are ideologies involved here. If you don't like what we're going to do, please tell me. And I will make sure you get a better job somewhere else. Okay? And frankly, I mean, I was on the receiving end. I personally thought this needed to be done, and I've written about it, and I'm going to use that I've written about it. But you know, some secretaries hadn't really thought about, some actually opposed it. One of the very interesting things is that most of the secretaries present were very flattered that the finance minister is saying, I need your help. You know, he could have said, look here, I'm the finance minister, I've spoken to the Prime Minister, this is what we want, we'll do it. No, he was saying, I need your help. And that actually meant that if you have views, that yeah, let's do this way around and that way, you can let me know. And if you don't like it at all, I give you another job. And interestingly, one of the secretaries was very convinced, if you like, ideologically, in favor of the control regime. And thought all this liberalization would be damaging. Said, but I don't agree with this approach. So actually, Manmohan Singh offered him the job of executive director at ADB, which is a very high-paid job, and which most civil servants at the end of their career would be very good about. And you know, it's to the credit of this particular secretary, who was the finance secretary, SGGSCC. He really believed that what he's saying is correct, and he said, and I admire this, he said, look, this is the wrong thing to do, I don't want to just be given a attractive job, I'd rather resign from that. very principled. Especially Shukla was as principled as Manmohan Singh in that sense. That he gave up something that would be to his great advantage personally, because he thought this was the wrong thing to do. I mean, I think historically he was wrong. The country's done very well, much better than it did before, etc. That's a separate issue. But the main point that I'm making is that you need, when you're dealing with complex changes, you need a lot of consultation. Pushing a change down from the top very rarely works. That's point number one. Point number two is that a lot of this is your personality, is a result of your personal life. And those of you who are interested in going into that should read Manmohan Singh's book on actually the Manmohan Singh family and younger days. I can't summarize it. Again, ChatGPT will give you a pretty good idea. But I urge you to read this. This is one thing where I think if you get it out of ChatGPT, you will actually end up reading the book. I recommend you read the book. You know, another little incident, I think it was the principal who said that Barack Obama said about Manmohan Singh. When Prime Minister Singh speaks, the word is very well known and very appropriate quotation. I have another quotation to share with you. It's not that well known. And that is that, in 2008, shortly after the economic crisis, the liquidity crisis, and the collapse of the Lehman Brothers in New York, which was a pretty global kind of crisis. We happened to be in Washington, Dr. Singh and his team, I was one of his team. And we were invited to a lunch by George Bush. And that was in the middle of a major session in Parliament, in their Parliament, the Senate and the House of Representatives. They were considering a proposal on what needs to be done to save the American financial system, special actions because the banks were collapsing and so on. And Dr. Singh was a little concerned that, look, these guys are fixed lunch with me by George Bush in the White House. And he was so busy because, the world is saying his financial system is collapsing. What on earth is the point of having his lunch? So, being a very nice and modest sort of person, he said to President Bush, he said, Mr. President, I really feel bad that I'm intruding upon you at a time when major legislation that we have introduced is pending in your Senate. And it makes a big difference. So I really feel I'm taking up your time at this crisis moment. And George Bush said, Prime Minister, I can't think of anyone better than you to meet at this moment. And then he said, you have a very calming effect on people. This again is a very important personality sense that you're meeting people at different times, at difficult times. You have this calming effect, then they're more likely to listen to you. And I think that was a very characteristic feature of Dr. Singh. Now, I haven't said very much on the 91 reforms. Those of you that want to ask questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. But the most important thing to remember about the 91 reforms is that they dismantle an existing consensus. What was that consensus? Number one, that government should control where private sector invests and also what we import. We didn't free it up totally, but we freed it up big time. So a huge amount of liberalization was brought in there. Second, got rid of the idea that the public sector must occupy the commanding heights of the economy. They said no. I think by then it was pretty obvious that the public sector, while it was given huge favors to occupy these heights, it didn't use those favors to generate production, productivity, profits, etc. So bring the private sector in. India has a very dynamic private sector, but the old policy is wrong. Three, we've been closed to foreign trade, but obviously getting rid of tariffs, getting rid of import licenses opened us up a bit more. And in order to offset what might be undue competition by foreign producers, rupee was freed. So it went to a more natural level. I mean, instead of 24 rupees to the dollar or something like that, it went to a much higher level. Actually, it was less than 24 to begin with. It went to 24 by a couple of evaluations. Then when we freed it, it went even further. At that time, a lot of people said the rupee, the dollar, rupee will collapse. It would go to 50, 60, 70. It didn't. It stabilized from about 18 or whatever it was originally, it stabilized around 30 within 2 years, and then changed very rapidly. That was really a change of place. Also, that if you're going to rely on the private sector, then banking has to be reformed. The banks should not just lend to somebody because they've got a license. In the old days, they all walked into the bank, needed some money. Bank never really looked at whether the fellow was a good fellow or not, because he had got a license. And if I've got a license, then the government thinks I should invest. That had to go, and banks had to become more doing the job of bankers. That's a very, very big change. And along with that, we needed to open up the capital market. People should not just have to go to banks. They should issue their equity and bonds in capital markets in Europe. Now, these things took 10, 15 years to come into play because you need the kind of regulatory structure, the institutional support, etc., etc., etc. But all of that was triggered by what was done in 1991. And it's important to realize that Dr. Singh and his team clearly saw that they were changing the system. If they had simply said we need to control the prices, we would have borrowed the money we did from the IMF. Prices was controlled by 1993. And then we would have stopped and didn't have to continue with that. That's not what we did. So I think those who say that we had no alternative, they're wrong. This is a provocative statement that I'm making. So those of you who worry about economic policy, think about it. Many people who say that you did what you had to do out of compulsion. Okay? There's no doubt that we have to do certain things out of compulsion. Crisis means you have to do something. But we didn't have to do all these reforms just to control the crisis. What we did is much more than was necessary. Actually, many of the things we did were not even included in the conditionalities that were associated by the World Bank and the IMF or their loans, because they never thought that we would go this far. That's a very critical issue. The second issue you have to remember is that the world was actually quite simple in those days. Internally, I used to say that look, what we are doing is not very clever. It's actually a no-brainer. Because we are the extreme. Everybody else was much more liberal than we were. We were the ones that had. India was more, I think, there were only three countries at the time that were more closed than India: Mongolia and Vietnam and North Korea, or Cuba. So, we were out there, the world was here, all we were saying is, look, this is ridiculous, let's come. That meant liberalization. Now, what is looking ahead? The subject is really about Manmohan Singh helping us make changes for the future. And I want to now switch to that. We're running out of time. It's very important that we recognize that the world today is totally different from what it was in 91. In 91, there's only one way to go. Communism in East Europe had collapsed. Communism in the Soviet Union was about to collapse. So frankly, it was a no-brainer. Today it's quite different. Because today, what used to be regarded as the consensus until just a few years ago is no longer the global consensus. Everybody is fluttering around doing different things. Some people are saying that look, the most successful country in the last 20 years in the world is China. There's no doubt about that. I mean, they are the ones who took the maximum advantage of the open economy that the world was. That is, I think, hugely to their credit. We, by the way, could have done the same thing, but we couldn't do it because we were not able to make those changes fast enough. So, I mean, I have said in my book backstage that we have preferred a gradualist approach. We're saying, yes, we want to go this way, not that fast, slowly. Okay, that was a concession to local domestic politics. I mean, every government has to design its policy within what is saleable politically, locally. China had the advantage of not having, they don't have to go and get elected. So as far as they're concerned, it's not right to say that China is a dictatorship of one person. It's a dictatorship of the Communist Party of China. And the Communist Party of China has its own ways of deciding what it wants to do. You can question how democratic that is, but there is consultation. So when, for example, Deng Xiaoping was making changes in China, he had to consult with 4 or 5 other top leaders. I mean, he spent a lot of time pushing them to the sidelines so that he could move forward. It's not as if Deng Xiaoping just decided one day, I'm going to do this. But the point is, within 4 or 5 years, he got rid of most of these fellows and put himself in a key position, put his guys over there, and then move forward in a very consistent way. The view today is that look, you fellows, us, we say, that the world is global, you should be open, you shouldn't interfere too much in the market, let foreign investment come in, etc., and things will be okay. But the most successful country in the world is China, that's not what we did. That's true. So the real question is, if we could be like China, would we have done the same thing? We should have. But the important thing is we are not like China. Now, if you want to be like China, then you better do something about the politics of the country. I personally would not hope that it will be too diverse to be like China. Remember, China is 96% Han-Chinese. I mean, the only other ethnic groups are 4%. And they all speak Mandarin and Chinese and share a script and this and that. We don't. And therefore, that Chinese way of moving forward, and I should add, by the way, the Chinese government has traditionally enjoyed a huge amount of support from the Chinese people, even going back to monarchical times. That does not mean our tradition at all. So we have to accept that in our case, we have to carry people with us. So we have to do it the Manmohan Singh way, and not the Deng Xiaoping way. Although Deng Xiaoping, by the way, did a bit of carrying, but very small compared to what we have to do. So then I want to focus on why the world is today different. Because there clearly isn't one, but that's one. The view of policy has changed. Okay? Second is that the world is running into a major problem of climate change. The collective actions of the whole world, not just us, but the whole world, is putting a stress on the system, which is getting reflected in climate change, which will have devastating effects. Okay? To resolve this problem, the world has to cooperate. Everybody has to agree that look, we can't keep pumping greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. But you know, everybody, it's easy to say that, but then you agree. What do you have to do? Each country has to be told, this is what you have to do. We don't have a global government that will actually say so. So the developing countries say, look here, we haven't developed at all. We have hardly contributed anything to the global concentration of greenhouse gases. You are the fellows, for the last 200 years, we've been pumping this stuff into the atmosphere. So there's very little carbon space left. And therefore, fairness requires that you cut down and give us a figure. Totally fair and totally correct. But we don't have a global government. So essentially, people do what they like. And when that happens, the rich do whatever they like, and there's not much you can do about it. And you were seeing that today in the United States. But up to now, the US has very consistently argued, has been arguing, that look, this is a common problem. All of you must agree. We did our bit by saying, okay, we agree. We were going to go down to net zero by 2070. The Americans were going to go down to net zero by 2050. And in addition, there was an agreement that they, the West, will pay the developing countries transfer money so that they can actually undertake the investments needed to deal with climate change. That has somehow been seriously disrupted because the US has withdrawn from the Paris Agreement. So whatever they agreed one month ago is no longer valid. We're going to go back to the COP meeting, the Committee of Parties meeting in Netherlands and Brazil in November, and God only knows what will happen on that. I think most people think that the US will finally come around to recognizing that this do-it-yourself method is not good to work. But we don't know that yet. So anyone who's looking at the world today has to make up their mind, what should be our approach? Now, one approach would be that the leading economy in the world, that's the United States. The United States is the largest economy in the world and the second largest polluter after China. The second largest economy in the world and the second largest polluter just decided that I'm not going to do anything. Should everybody decide the same thing? Then the planet will burn much faster. So I think we have to consider, and this is what our diplomats, I'm sure, are thinking about. We have to consider that, look, maybe this burst of enthusiasm on the part of the US to go it alone, make America great, give more. This is a temporary phenomenon. Good sense will prevail. I mean, that's a big hope, but quite frankly, that's the only thing you can assume. Because if it doesn't prevail, then I don't see the rest of the world saying that look, you are polluting the world cheerfully, but we are going to contain. I think we are going through a period we don't know what the United States will do on pollution. We just hope that they will come around to a sensible point of view. That's one thing. The second thing is, what about trade? The United States has traditionally been the most vocal country for open trade. That is what enabled China to do as well as they did. They now regret it. They regret it because the Chinese have not used their opportunity. Simply to say, well, look, we're doing well, we're providing you wonderful goods, everything's fine. They're actually saying, they have said quite formally, we are challenging you militarily, we're challenging you technologically, and we're challenging you as a system. And we're telling the world that all this democratic nonsense is neither here nor there. Ours is the right system. You've got several billion people outside the United States being given this message. Naturally, what the United States has done is they're just trying to protect their position. So the world is getting fragmented. They're keeping China's, they're putting restrictions on some of China's imports, not on all. So theoretically, I mean, they're identifying those areas where Chinese dominance could lead to a technological superiority and preventing free trade in those areas. And more generally, they're also sort of raising tariffs on their own products. And for example, steel and aluminum are not strategically important materials at all. Chips maybe, but the US is putting tariffs on steel, they're putting tariffs on aluminum, whatever. So we have to think, how do we handle this problem? This problem has become more complicated by the fact that President Trump has announced a completely new approach to trade policy which he calls reciprocal tariffs. You have a tariff of so much on this commodity being imported from me, and I will put a tariff of the same amount. Now, since different countries have different tariffs, if you logically do this, it would mean that the US will have different tariffs for different countries. That would be a nightmare. It's like saying, your tariff on aluminum is 30%, my tariff on aluminum for your country is 30%. Somebody else's tariff is 5%, my tariff on aluminum for that country is 5%. This will be complete mayhem, right? I don't think they actually intend to do that. The newspapers are currently talking about they're trying to have some kind of a trade agreement, and let's hope it works well. But you know, managing this kind of negotiation is going to be very different from the earlier trade negotiations that we are used to. And secondly, I think our approach should be, traditionally we have followed the approach that trade should be liberalized multilaterally under the WTO. So everybody follows the same rules. I think the West is no longer interested in WTO type multilateralization. They're going for free trade agreements. Look, reach an agreement with us, and we'll work out what the tariffs should be. Now, we could have entered a major tariff agreement for the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP) with the East Asian countries. We negotiated all the way up to it, but then at the last minute, the government decided not to sign. The story is that the Indian industry was very opposed to agreeing with that because China is a member, and they didn't want to give access to China. We are negotiating with the FTAs with the UK and with Europe. I don't know how that is going, let's hope it goes well. But clearly, we need to tie up as many FTA agreements as we can to be assured of access to important markets and separately handle the US as best we can. By the way, for Asia, I have said on many occasions that although the RCEP we didn't enjoy, there is another Asian agreement which is called the Comprehensive Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership or something, CPTPP, whatever, which includes Japan and Korea and several other countries in East Asia and so on. And China is not a member of that agreement, and for political reasons it's unlikely that they will give China entry. So the logical thing for us to do is join that. But joining that means accepting certain other conditions on the standards that we enforce domestically. And historically, we have tended to argue that this is not a part of a trade agreement because it wasn't in the WTO. But now, I think the world has changed, and nobody is willing to give you tariff advantages if you're not willing to align these other dimensions, environment, labor standards, even human rights, child labor, whatever. I think we have to recognize that we have to do that. Now this is going to create, we need a much broader discussion in India of what is really in our interest. And this is an example of when things become complex, there's no alternative but to have much broader consultation. So I could go on and on, but I think since, as I said, all of these things, ChatGPT will give you a good summary. Those of you who have smartphones, can actually ask the question right now. What I'd like to do is end by saying that I think if we learn from Dr. Singh, the thing to learn is that economic policy making is complex. It affects different people differently. It cannot be driven by slogans. Slogans have a very important role in delivering a perception of what the country needs. I think the Dixit Bharat slogan is a good one. Everybody wants that we should become Dixit. But having got the slogan right, what is going to make us Dixit? Is it going to be protecting our industry so that it becomes Dixit? Or the other fellows will say protecting our industry makes it permanently uncompetitive. So from the slogan to the policy is a big transition. That's really where you need both technical knowledge and you need a bit of political mobilization. And in the political mobilization, you may have to concede a few things. Even in the West, when they were advocating free trade, they never extended it to agriculture. So, those fellows have done the same thing. But we can't just not do anything. And I think that's what we need, and that's what, in the end, it's what all the people below the age of 20 in this room, it's their opinions that are going to matter, not the older fellows, because older fellows very rarely change their mind. I know this from my friends. When they disagree with me, they can be pleasant, but they say, I don't agree. When they agree with you, they go, great, right, exactly what I said. So frankly, while talking amongst older people is always pleasant, and you look back to nice common memories. If you want to change anybody's mind, I firmly agree with you, address people below the age of 20. In fact, I hope that I have time to write one more book, and people ask me, what's it going to be? I say it's going to be about the future, and it's going to aim only at those below the age of 20. The rest, I'm ignoring. So, with those words, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you like.
You can also stand and raise your hand.
Good afternoon, sir. I had a question relating to the fact that in 1991, right, the global scenario was very much concentrated on the disintegration of the USSR and the shock therapy that followed that followed for Russia after that, right? And I feel that there are a lot of conflicting views regarding that. But I wanted to ask that as a participant of the planning process, how did the policymakers in India did this shock therapy in India to a very gradual amount? For example, as you said, the crisis ended by 1993-94. But for example, in Russia, the shock therapy was decades long. It's still serving certain points which are very problematic for their economy. But for us, it is not that stark. Right? The shock therapy has not been that stark. It has been very gradual, and I feel that it has been very successful. So, as a policymaker who was involved at that time, how did India achieve this gradual response to the shock that we received in 1991?
But it's a good question, and as I said, we really didn't have the. I think shock therapy is actually wrong. So the American advisors who advised the Soviet Union and indeed some of the other countries that you should go for shock therapy were wrong, because shock therapy leads to very big distributional changes within the country. In fact, a lot of the shock therapy simply led to a whole bunch of very shady characters acquiring most of the public assets that were privatized in very unregulated sales. And therefore, that was in fact conceptually wrong. In our case, because everything was in a process of political feasibility, it wouldn't have been possible in any way. My view on this is that, look, shock therapy is wrong, gradualism is right, but we did it too slowly. What we did in 20 years, we should have done in 10. I'm not in favor of the view that we should have done it in 2 years. But we should certainly have done what we did in 20 years should have been done in 10. And I think that this could only be done if the need for change was publicly, if you like, promoted. Let me give you an example. One of the things that we were very pleased about is that on the banking side, we already had, we had opened up a bit. There were private banks, we opened up for more banks. We introduced regulation, modern regulation, and the thing worked quite well. The insurance sector was completely closed. There was no private bank, nothing. There wasn't even an independent insurance body. It just was a state-owned, LIC was state-owned and it did whatever it had to do. Now, the interesting thing is that when we tried to introduce insurance in the private sector, it was very difficult for the then Congress government to get support from the then BJP government. In fact, Dr. Manmohan Singh had actually spoken to Atal Bihari and explained to him that we have foreign banks operating in India. Why not have a few foreign companies also? Or at least just have a certain share in equity, maybe between banks and insurance. If both are closed, that's one thing. But if one is open and the other is not, it's not logical. And Atal actually agreed with that. But later on, he told him he couldn't persuade his heart. So actually, it couldn't be done during that period. It couldn't even be done during the United Front. It was the BJP that then enabled a little bit of it to happen. And that also happened quite slowly. So, in our system, you always have to keep working in the, if you like, the mental space for accepting a change in policy. And I don't think that we did enough of that. Within the Congress party, there was no real conviction that we needed to privatize. At that time, BJP was much clearer. They viewed all this public sector as a Nehruvian hang-up. And they were in favor of private sector, small private sector. We must privatize. As soon as the BJP came in, they said, look, we were going to have a disinvestment of everything that was not strategic. That was done way back in 1998 or something. Okay, we are now almost 20 years later. But it hasn't happened. Because within the party, that proposition, which earlier BJP leadership believed in, hasn't been carried through. And I think part of the problem, quite honestly, is the public is not being educated. I mean, when parties respond to what voters think is important. And I think no party in India has appealed to the voters that this is what is needed to make Bharat great. Parties of all kinds appeal only on the basis of freebies. Now, if you're going to have a democracy, you must have, parties must appeal to the public to see the need for basic change. And I don't think we're doing enough of that. And frankly, since everybody wants to be a democracy, that is the biggest involvement. And frankly, you people are the educated young. And I would urge you that when you next go to the vote, you should ask the people who are canvassing for your vote, beyond the freebie, do you have any interesting idea that you want us to think about?
Good afternoon, sir. Do you think that the recurring deviations from the legal system of managing foreign exchange rates by the RBI is impacting the Indian rupee negatively? And do you think that in this situation, a common fixed currency could be a solution to any problems arising out of the same? Thank you.
I think the common BRICS currency will not have any impact on the problem you posed. BRICS are too diverse a group to ever have a common currency. I don't know who invented this idea, and of course President Trump got very excited about it. There's not a dog's chance of a common BRICS currency. You know what a common BRICS currency means? Is that we would no longer have a rupee. We would have a bricky or something. The Chinese would no longer have renminbi. It's just not going to happen. So forget that. Now you come to your other question. That you said that the RBI's policy is affecting the rupee adversely, but negatively. That seems to imply that you think that the depreciation of the rupee is a negative development. I don't think it is. Look at our export performance. It's been very bad. We don't say that, but if you look at the last 5 or 6 years, the change in export performance is very poor. I mean, shows it's very negative. Many people say that's because the rupee is being kept artificially high. Okay? And had it been allowed to weaken to its natural level, A, you wouldn't have these sudden changes, and B, you would have a better export performance. Remember that for many, many years, South Korea and China were accused of keeping their currency too weak, which is why the exports did so well, why employment did so well, etc., etc. So I personally think that we should have allowed the rupee to find this more natural level. Now, of course, when you have a sudden development, which is adverse, you counter that. But you don't try to shore up the rupee. Now, let me say that all parties, I think, make the mistake of thinking that a strong rupee equals a strong economy. It is true that when the economy is strong, the rupee will strengthen. The economy is strong means its exports are competitive, it's doing a lot of exports, there won't be any depreciation pressure. So a strong rupee is a sign of a strong economy. But if the economy is weakened and you keep the rupee artificially strong, you weaken the economy even more. So it's a mistake to think that you're strengthening the economy by strengthening the rupee. You're not.
Good morning, sir. My main concern is today we are seeing many educated young people are unemployed or they are below their level, which is known as underemployment. So, and the inequality in the economy continues to grow. So, what major changes can you suggest? What are the major reasons, first of all, for this problem, and what major policy changes can you suggest to solve this problem in our economy? Thank you.
I must congratulate you for asking a brilliant question. Anyone who answers that question correctly deserves to be immediately made finance minister and run policy. Honest truth is, I don't have the answer, but let me make a few comments. Number one, there's no doubt in my mind that the employment performance is poor. There's a lot of literature now going on, and even the government has accepted that this is a weak spot, we should do more. Number two, the idea that you are going to do more while keeping growth at 6.4% needs to be questioned. If we were to achieve what the Viksit Bharat objective is, and grow at 8.5% or something like that, you would find the employment situation would become much better. So your question on employment is not just a question on employment. It's a question of how do you make the economy grow more. And that's a very big issue. You have to look at all those things, push for them, and work on it.
Good afternoon, sir. So my question is, what do you think about the global economy when it comes to the technology as in artificial intelligence with the advent of all the new AIs coming up, like DeepSeek and even new Chinese AI? Will the economies be technology centric, and how would the economies look like in 10 to 15 years?
That's a good question, and to be honest, the thing about very good questions is that you don't always have smart answers. Let me make a few comments. Number one, is technology today important? The AI is one part of technology. The answer is absolutely yes, it is. But particularly for your generation. Because what is happening is that the rate of change of technology is fantastic. I mean, there are many measures of how technology changes, but the common one is people ask the question that how many years after the first motor car was introduced did you have 50 million people using motor cars? Or how many years after the first TV was introduced did you have 100 million people using TVs? And the answer will be so many years, etc. Then you ask the question, what about smartphones? How many years after the smartphone was introduced did the total usage of smartphones extend to 250 million people? It will be very, very short. So I think what's happening is technology has always changed, but now it's changing much, much faster. Okay? This potentially will disrupt systems. And I mean, in a way, it's only disruptive technologies that are important. I mean, if the technology is not disruptive, it will come, it will improve productivity here and there. But I think we are in the world of disruptive technology. Now, what does disruptive mean? It means that many, take the case of AI, many jobs that exist today will not exist 10 years from now. The area where this will be most felt is in the United States and Europe. Because they have a very large number of jobs that can be very easily disrupted. In our case, most of our jobs are pretty low scale. And they're not going to be disrupted by AI. We do have the kind of jobs that could get disrupted, but they're a very small part of the total economy. Okay? So I think we will see disruption. We need to prepare for it. I mean, many people usually say that don't just think of jobs destroyed, because every new technology also creates new jobs. Now, you know, when the technology comes in gradually, the destruction of jobs is gradual and the creation of jobs is also gradual. And you can adjust yourself, you can make sure that the labor force acquires the new techniques, etc. When the pace of introduction of change is dramatic, then on the new jobs created, it's difficult to scale up fast enough. So you get scarcities, and in the sense of fixing the jobs that are lost, there's no way of doing it. So you get a lot of unemployment. I mean, for example, AI, it is said, is going to do away with quite a lot of BPO type of jobs. I mean, that will just be replaced by chatbots. That will have quite a significant effect in India. I don't know if this is being quantified. I'm sure it is in the relevant ministries. I don't think we can stop it by blocking the technology. This is one issue. I mean, because it is disruptive, should we stop it? I'm not saying no, because if you stop it, you will be jumping off the global bus. You will be becoming more and more backward compared to the rest of the world. But you do need to recognize that this is a human problem. You do need to recognize that you need to do some kind of reskilling. But most of all, you need to skill up. And I think that has profound implications for educational institutions. I mean, the whole idea that you go to a university, you get your degree, then you get a job, has to end. Because the degree you got may not be giving you the skills you will need 10 years from now. So maybe people have to go back and have refresher courses. Within firms, people will have to organize more refresher courses. So a huge range of things will have to happen. And I personally feel that in India, we love saying we'll plan for all this, but planning usually means putting in regulations. I think personally we need to give flexibility. To give a whole bunch of colleges flexibility. Some will adjust and some won't. If you try to change the curriculum, it may take 10 years. So I think we need to introduce this flexibility, and different colleges, different universities respond in different ways. And very soon, people will know which are the degrees that are actually worthwhile and which are the degrees that are not. But it's not going to be an easy transition. And again, this is something that needs much more involvement. I mean, I don't believe that the Ministry of Education is competent to judge what should be done. But they should be consulting with universities, colleges all over, based on the actual experience being gained. We have a lot of skilled missions. I mean, for the last 20 years, I mean, UBA has skill development mission, NEA has skill development mission. But are they working? It's very easy to set up a mission, but are people being produced finding jobs? That is really what we need to be much more watchful of. So good question, not a good answer, but what I can say is that we need to keep our minds open.
Good afternoon, sir. So, civil nuclear use was cited the USA in the late 2000s. So, do we still see the impact of it in today's market if we talk about the energy or the power sector?
That's a good question. I was part of the team which signed the nuclear deal. The original objective of signing the nuclear deal was not necessarily bringing in foreign nuclear reactors. That was certainly one possibility. The most important thing about the nuclear deal was that unless you signed the deal, you would not be eligible to sign other agreements which regulated the flow of technology. So by signing the nuclear deal, by signing the nuclear deal, what it meant was that the rest of the world viewed India as eligible in every respect, like somebody that had signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, although we had not signed it. Many defense-related transfer of technology agreements had a big condition. That is, you have to be compliant with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. In other words, if you were a nuclear state recognized under the Non-Proliferation Treaty, you were eligible. If you were not a nuclear state, you should have signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which we had not signed. What the deal did was India was treated as if it had signed. All these other military technology related agreements kind of opened up. And a lot of what you see today, and the present government has done a good job of expanding the scope. A lot of the technical defense cooperation with the US would not have been possible if we had not signed the nuclear deal. So that is already one benefit. Two, a very major benefit of the nuclear deal was that we could then import fuel, uranium, for our own reactors. Earlier, because we had not signed the non-proliferation agreement, import of uranium was banned. This meant that India's nuclear reactors could only rely on Indian uranium, which was limited, and our capacity utilization for existing nuclear plants kept going down. By signing the deal, we were able to import uranium fuel for our nuclear reactors, and that helped in activating our capacity. The third is the issue of setting up new reactors and exchange of nuclear technology. There, quite frankly, we didn't do very much. One of the reasons for that was that no sooner had we signed the nuclear deal than the opposition at that time, which meant both the communists and the BJP, were very keen to have a very strict nuclear civil liability law, which would make the operator responsible for any damage. And we, both these parties, pressured the government into putting in place a nuclear civil liability law, which was much stronger than any other country. And it was very clear that under that law, no foreigner would want to come and sell you any technology. Part of the problem also was that the liability was not just of the operator. The liability was also of the person supplying the equipment. Now, I think the government has, in my view, rightly said that we are going to amend that. I don't know how comprehensive that amendment will be. But the important thing is, it's very easy, by the way, to amend the law, but not make it compliant with international standards. Then you say, I've done the amendments, but still they're not coming. In my view, if you don't make it compliant with established standards, nobody will come. So that's something we have to see. That's the real challenge. But I do think that one very important thing has happened, which has nothing to do with the nuclear deal, and that is that the government has agreed to open up nuclear technology to the private sector. Now, at the moment, the private sector is only allowed as a minority partner, and the person operating the plant is going to be the nuclear power corporation. I think this is wrong. Because elsewhere in the world, there are private sector guys who operate nuclear plants. Nobody is going to give you a technology if you're saying you can't operate the plant. So are we willing to amend that to allow new private sector guys to come in and allow them to operate the plant? Obviously, when you do that, you have to have very strict regulatory control. But you know, regulatory control is necessary even for public sector plants. The idea that because it's public sector safety is assured is simply not true. So what we need is a domestic safety regulation that is world class and which cracks down whether it's public or private sector. So that is a very major sort of change which we have to do. But it's good that we are talking about it.
The last question now.
Sir, in Salvador became the first country to officially recognize Bitcoin as a currency. So, when we speak of disruptive technologies, how do we go about with a currency that is, with cryptocurrency that is threatening to disrupt the way the economy works by being decentralized and not being in the hand of a particular government or an organization?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a great believer in Bitcoin, and I'm probably amongst younger people, I'm probably a minority. I think most people my age probably have the same view. So I'm willing to keep an open mind. But I don't believe that Bitcoin is some kind of a magic solution to problems. The only problem that it really solves is if you want to undertake transactions that cannot be tracked, then Bitcoin is great. But I'm not sure that those are the transactions that you should be supporting. So what Salvador does should not, I mean, you know, if you make a list of important countries in terms of monetary policy, I don't think Salvador is one of them. So I'm nothing against Salvador, probably a nice place to visit. But I wouldn't take my monetary policy from them actually. I don't think there's a single lady answering the question. Isn't that the hardest? Is there any lady that wants to ask a question? Okay, if you can't, if no female student wants to ask a question, I think we should allow the teachers to do so.
Hello, sir. I am Dr. Meenakshi. I am a Hindi teacher here. I have two silly questions and some silly views because I am a literature teacher here बोलना चाहूँगी कि यहाँ जितने भी लोग हैं सब अर्थशास्त्री हैं और ऐसे में जो एक साहित्य का प्रश्न मेरे दिमाग में आ रहा है वो ये है इसीलिए कह रही हूँ क्योंकि हो सकता है उसकी बारीकियों को हमने ना समझा हो जितनी बारीकी उसको सब समझ रहे हैं एक क्वेश्चन है कि जो लैंग्वेज के टीचर्स हैं या लैंग्वेज के लोग हैं वो अर्थशास्त्र में क्या सहयोग कर सकते हैं अपने भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था को सुधारने में एक लैंग्वेज क्या भूमिका निभा सकती है। दूसरा क्वेश्चन है कि एक कॉमन पीपल, एक साधारण व्यक्ति कैसे अर्थव्यवस्था के सुधारने में सहयोग कर सकता है, क्योंकि हम सब ऐसी बात बहुत करते हैं कि हमें इस तरह की सुविधाएं मिले, रोजगार मिले, सब चीजें मिले, लेकिन हम क्या दें, इसकी बात भी होनी चाहिए। एक विचार भी है मेरे दिमाग में कि जब हम अर्थव्यवस्था की बात करते हैं और जब कभी मैंने अपने स्कूल में अर्थव्यवस्था को पढ़ा, तो मैंने किसानों की बात सुनी कि वो अपनी अर्थव्यवस्था को सुधारने के लिए या अपनी आर्थिक हालातों को सुधारने के लिए जिस प्रकार से यूरिया या अन्य चीजों का उपयोग कर रहे हैं, उसका इफेक्ट हम सबके जीवन पर कैसा पड़ रहा है और उसकी मजबूरी, किसान की मजबूरी और हम लोगों की मजबूरी उन सब चीजों को करने में और भारत के भविष्य की ओर, मतलब हम हमारा इस ओर ध्यान देने के लिए बहुत गहरी बात, जहाँ तक मुझे लगता है। तो किसी चीज को सुधारने में और किसी चीज को बिगाड़ने का ये जो बीच का जो पायदान है, तो हम कैसे बेहतरी की ओर ले जा सकते हैं, इस पे आपका विचार चाहूंगी। और एक छोटा सा कमेंट, आपने जलवायु परिवर्तन का जिक्र किया, मुझे लगता है ये बहुत चीज है, इसमें भी हम कैसे सहयोग कर सकते हैं और कैसे इसको हम इम्प्लीमेंट करें अपने जीवन में, इसमें सुधार करें। सर ये छोटी छोटी बातें कि आपके विचार जानना चाहते हैं।
अंग्रेजी में जवाब दे दो नहीं देखिए, जो आपने मेन पॉइंट जो आपने रेज किया है कि अगर आर्थिक प्रॉब्लम्स को डिस्कस करना है, समझना है ये सब, और यहाँ पे जो अंग्रेजी बोलते हैं पॉपुलेशन में 10% हो गया ठीक है, तो क्लियरली अगर आपने मेजॉरिटी सपोर्ट लेनी है, it has to go beyond English. Not necessarily Hindi, but Hindi, local languages, Punjabi, Punjab, etc. No question. अगर इकोनॉमिक डिस्कशंस जो हो रही हैं वो सारी अंग्रेजी में हो रही हैं, तो फिर यू आर नॉट पर्सुएडिंग द मेजॉरिटी, उसके बीच में कोई शक नहीं होना चाहिए। माइंड यू, आजकल की जो लैंग्वेज ट्रांसलेशन पॉसिबिलिटीज हैं वो अलाउ करती हैं कि अगर कोई अंग्रेजी बोलते हैं, हिंदी नहीं बोलते, तो एक्चुअली ऑटोमेटिक ट्रांसलेशन इनटू हिंदी, पंजाबी, तेलुगु, व्हाट इज पॉसिबल। सो आई थिंक दिस विल हैपन। अदर क्वेश्चन जो आपने पूछे हैं बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है कि यूरिया की प्राइस, फार्मर्स, मुझे लगता है कि इसमें कोई प्रॉपर अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं है। या तो आपके जो आर्थिक अर्थशास्त्री हैं उन्होंने लोगों को समझाया नहीं है, बट जब पॉलिटिशियंस फार्मर्स से बात करते हैं तो वो उनको समझाते नहीं है कि भाई क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज है क्या नहीं। और दिस इज एन एग्जांपल दैट वी नीड मोर कॉन्वर्सेशन। फॉर एग्जांपल टेक पंजाब, कई सालों से 20 सालों से लोगों को पता है कि पंजाब is being transformed into a desert क्योंकि वाटर लेवल इज गोइंग डाउन। अब अगर आप इकोनॉमिस्ट को कहेंगे भाई बहुत वाटर, हम अगर पंजाब इज वेरी प्राउड ऑफ एक्सपोर्टिंग राइस टू बिहार, which is an export of water. The main input in rice is water. Bihar has lots of water, Punjab doesn't have water. So why is this not understood? I don't understand. And maybe it needs to go beyond mere economists. It needs to go into the understanding of the normal person. Punjab में, for example, it's firmly believed. अभी मेरे ख्याल से सरकार बात कर रही है पंजाबी फार्मर्स से, MSP वो etc. Firmly believe that unless you have MSP, agricultural prosperity नहीं हो सकती. But if you look at the other states, the big change in the other states is diversification. Going into floriculture, horticulture, into fruits, whatever. None of which have MSP. And all of which give higher yield per acre. So why is this not somehow translated to political language? For 30 years, people have been saying that you should subsidize the Punjab farmer to go out of rice because rice is so profitable. Unless you subsidize it, won't go out. But it's not being done. It has not been done because the fellows there say center should do the subsidy. Center say, "Hey, your farmers, if you want to change, you do the subsidy." So I think that particularly agriculture की जो बात है, we need much better understanding in the public at large and what is necessary now. And I agree with you कि ये अंग्रेजी में नहीं होगी. People, if you can't explain it in Hindi, it will not be done. Hindi, Punjabi, let's say, it won't happen. So I agree with you there. So आप जब हिंदी सिखाते हैं, why don't you put it into lectures on how to reform Punjab instead of just literally Hindi, ना? It's a great opportunity लोगों को समझाने के लिए ये issues here. Okay.
Given the paucity of time, I just request two more questions. One thing from a student and one the last one by Professor Nanda.
There's a female student. For change.
Good afternoon, sir. So my question is that we know that India currently has the highest demographic of all the other. But it is speculated that the fertility rate is expected to fall in the near future. So what will be repercussions for the Indian economy?
Well, let me say the fertility rate is already falling. It's falling everywhere, even in UP and Bihar. Only in UP and Bihar it is still higher than the level which stabilizes the population. In the south and even in Punjab and so on, it has now got to the level where population will be stabilized. Current assessment is that we will reach a peak of population by 2050. After that, the population will start declining. So this period that our population is still growing, this is called the demographic dividend. But you know, the demographic dividend just means there are a lot of young people. So if you could do everything that is needed for the economy to grow rapidly, you won't run into a labor constraint. There's not a labor. That's not the case in Japan, it's not the case in Europe, it's not the case even in China, because they've already peaked. Okay? But the point is, if you don't grow the economy fast enough to employ even the existing labor, what you're doing is you are wasting the demographic dividend. That is our position at the moment. So, it's not that the dividends isn't important. If we change policies in the next 3 or 4 years, and when we 8% growth, this dividend will be very valuable. But if we don't do that, if we keep growing at 6.5%, this dividend is of no value whatsoever, it's just a nuisance.
Good afternoon, sir. We believe that Indian Bank is giving easy loans to vendors and installers as the right way to promote consumerism in the market under the spectrum of central and state sponsored schemes.
You know, greater access to smaller vendors is very important. Okay? And you should allow banks to find ways of deeming these vendors to be creditworthy. If you simply have what used to be called in the 1970s loan mailers, you just distribute a lot of loans to whoever turns up. It will be a disaster. But the fact is that there are many small entrepreneurs, even people selling, who are good borrowers. But the problem is that the way banks work typically, you need a lot of documentation. And these fellows cannot provide the documentation needed. So the usual approach is that you try to simplify that. And a lot of people believe that modern technology will make it easier to tell who is a good borrower and who is not a good borrower. When if a person is living in a house he doesn't actually have title to the house. So you can't make him use the house as collateral. That's what the banks allow. But the fellow is regularly paying his electricity bill, is regularly paying his water bill. There's another fellow who's not paying his water bill, not paying his electricity bill. The first fellow is a better potential borrower. Banks and fintechs have a way of identifying who are the better borrowers. And I think banks jointly with fintechs could and should increase their lending to such people. The idea is not, loans should not be regarded as a subsidy. I mean, loans should be regarded as contributing critical productive input, but it should not be linked to collateral only. I mean, look, almost all the women in our country do not have possession of the house that they're living in. It's the husband. So unless the husband agrees to make the house a collateral, she can borrow. He doesn't want her to go and work anyway. That's the end of the story. But if she's living in a house and maintaining a household and making payments and all the rest of it, she would credit recipient. I think banks need to be more imaginative in determining who is a good person, good borrower to lend to. But doing it mechanically will be a disaster. That's the loan bailout approach. I mean, some monthly comes, you have 500 people who can get 10,000 people, and the banks just do that on the grounds that look, TKS all lost. It's not really credit. Today, around the country, there are a lot of small lenders, microfinance lenders, they're lending money to people who are not getting money from banks. They're serving a useful purpose. One of the problems with banks is they limit the interest rate they can charge. Many small borrowers, high-risk borrowers, you can offset the risk by charging a higher interest rate. I mean, there are people who are paying to money lenders interest rates which may amount to 50-60% per year, if not more. But you might be able to, somebody may be able to lend them at 15%, maybe 20% interest rate, and still make money, allowing for the default rate. So there's a lot of scope there.
Very good afternoon, sir. Thank you first of all for such a nice statement about what he did. The general thing, as in, I really felt honored. My question is that, recently at the Global Summit organized by the DP now, the Honorable Prime Minister spoke about reforms, and he did say that the 1990s reforms was by compulsion. And the present reform that the present government is doing by conviction. May I quote the line which the Honorable former Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, said when he launched the 1991 reforms. That was a powerful quotation by French poet Victor Hugo. The time comes for such an idea when no force or love can stop such an idea. I'm not saying it properly, but what he meant was that the idea is so powerful that no force on earth can stop that idea. And Manmohan Singh meant about the reforms. So, sir, when I connect to two statements, what Modi said at his speech, regarding that this is what it did was by compulsion. I'm Ratnananda from the Department of Economics, and I believe as a student of economics and a teacher of economics, I truly and firmly believe that, when Kanaka has rightly pointed out, crisis and an opportunity, I think the great Prime Minister Manmohan Singh did what was required at that time. So, what's your comment on what the statement put by Narendra Modi about, that this is like a conviction, not we are not doing by compulsion. So I believe that this is something technology will definitely create some kind of reforms which are being expedited. During good times, 90s it wasn't there. So I think
of tools and technology and time at your command. So what's your viewpoint on this? Thank you.
Good question. Well, look, let me make one or two points. First, I mean, the technology factor is certainly new. The technology, the basis of the technology that we now see was actually laid during the UAE time. And Dr. Singh was quite far-sighted because, the idea of having a heart was already there. In fact, planning commission was working. What was unique was to bring another delivery in. Okay? And I can tell you that another delivery completely changed the way it was to be done. That was the real contribution. So the whole Aadhaar experiment dates back to UAE times, even its expansion. But actually, to the credit of President, they carried it on. As a matter of fact, at that time, this is very interesting. Politics should be separated from economics because if you're running a political, if you're speaking as a politician, it's your job to denigrate the other fellow because you might get a few votes. And that's good, nothing wrong with that. The critical thing is that when Aadhaar was being pushed by us, BJP was strongly against Aadhaar. So were the left wing. For usual privacy, whatever. There was a whole, when the bill that was put forward to make Aadhaar have a legal basis. The select committee or whatever that were looking at the bill was headed by Singh. Very good man and a very sound economist also. And Shashwani was saying it will ruin privacy in that. So frankly, we were all quite worried now that the JJP has come in. And he has his view, Aadhaar will be killed. None than sort of meeting with the Prime Minister himself. Then Modi ji. And explained to him, your party is opposing Aadhaar as a mistake. This is very, very good for you. To his credit, Prime Minister recognized that and told these fellows, no, we're going to let Aadhaar go ahead. Meaning, Aadhaar would have died at that time if he had not done. So you build on whatever has come. So the idea that nothing has happened before and everything is happening now is actually not right. I believe, for example, that a lot of people today believe that all the IITs were set up by the current government. If you can believe that, you believe anything. But the fact is that there were reforms, many of them might be picked up by the current government, they've done a good job. And then we move them forward. That's the way to look at it. So the question of compulsion, it's certainly true that we had a crisis. We don't have a crisis now. So whatever the government is doing now can be viewed as reforms in the normal course. Whether that is being done fast enough or not is for you to judge, but it's not a crisis. You're not being pushed by any crisis. I mean, India is growing at 6.4%, which is actually higher than most other countries at the moment. The problem is that given India's problems, we need 28. But that if you want to call that it's a challenge rather than a crisis. In 91, we actually had a crisis. It was a compulsion to control that crisis. We had to control the crisis, things will be a disaster. It was not a compulsion to carry out or introduce a series of reforms. That's the point. So, the managing crisis was a compulsion. Introducing and carrying out reforms was not a compulsion, it was a recognition that the previous system was ridiculous and needed to be changed.
So, what was your sir? First of all, I want to raise a big fan. And I want to express gratitude for what came in the lives of the economy in the era of the 90s, along with the distinguished Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. My basic concern is the 28% rate of GST being charged of the automobile industry. This is really, really, I have a
almost 80, if I'm not wrong, 70% of the institute or I should say the small enterprises are good. What would you suggest the current finance minister, suggestion which could enhance the industry? Thank you, sir.
I don't talk about individual industry problems. I agree with you, by the way, 28 is a very high rate. As a general rule, my view, and the view of many people, is that the logic of GST is that you have only two rates, okay? Maybe whatever, something like 10%, 15%, for example. And then you have an extra rate, which could be a sort of luxury rate. Okay? What that should be, what should be applied, that's a separate issue. Okay? I think the real problem is that every party has now said that GST has too many rates. Okay? So I don't understand why we don't just do what is necessary, go to two rates. So I would only suggest to the finance minister that she should do what she has said. She has said this. उससे ज़्यादा हम क्या कह सकते हैं? Just do it. But while I will give you an answer, answer will also be that it can't be done in Parliament. She's right. It has to be done by GST Council. But I have a suggestion for her, which I made it. I think this GST Council has become, in my view, a very dysfunctional body. Nobody knows what happens. Nobody knows who says what. We don't know what's being proposed. What comes out. They're only willing to reduce rates and not willing to raise any. That is going to lead to loss of revenue. Actually, what I think of the finance minister should do, get a bunch of experts, whoever, there are lots of people in this country, and prepare a paper saying government of India's proposal for GST reform. Put them down. All fellows from different industries and others, say, at least you guys agree with the government of India's proposal. Then they send this thing to the GST Council and try to persuade the state finance minister. At the moment, I think it's dysfunctional. You put all our state finance ministers together and ask them to have to raise, because none of them will raise any rate. All of them will want to reduce rates. And that is not working either. But you know, the logic of this needs to be explained. And if it is done all at one go, people will find some rates have gone up, some rates have gone down. Otherwise, this easy way of doing it is not correct, in my view. But I'm not different from you, I'm an outsider. But that's my view. What 81-year-old is not an idea, you know?
Thank you, sir, for your insights on Dr. Manmohan Singh and Mr. Gandhi. I would like to thank you for your patience and Mr. Manmohan to address all the questions posed. The clarity with which you address these queries greatly enhance our understanding of these issues. As we conclude this thought-provoking and captivating session, I now invite Dr. Manmohan to deliver the vote prize.
Thanks. I'm sorry to interrupt. Since I mentioned ChatGPT, I want to involve your students. I'm requesting all students, especially those who didn't ask any questions at one. Ask if there's something you wanted to know about what I said, which you think is wrong. Ask ChatGPT. This fellow said this. What do you think? And if you find that the ChatGPT says that I'm wrong, please tell your principal or your head of the department, make a list of those things and send them to me. I'd be very interested.
हैं, ऐसे मनमोहन लोग ही इतिहास के पन्नों पर अपना नाम छोड़ जाते हैं। Respected Dr. Singh जी, our respected chairman NS Chadha, our principal Professor Singh ji, other esteemed guests, dear colleagues and my dear students. Today, we all echoed these sentiments for Dr. Manmohan Singh, a great Indian visionary, humble economist and a statesman. A man of few words, but powerful ones. His leadership and intellect transformed India's economic destiny. A very big salute to this great Indian visionary. Today, we paid tribute to Dr. Manmohan Singh and his legacy by holding this session on steering India through global economic challenges. I think everyone here present agrees that there could not have been more fitting and appropriate choice than Dr. Singh who has been close associate, co-architect of India's economic reforms and a former deputy chairman of the Planning Commission. Sir, on behalf of GGS family, I extend heartfelt gratitude to you for accepting our invite and share your invaluable insights and thoughts on Dr. Singh's legacy. Your reflections today have given our audience a deeper, a meaningful understanding of vision and his contributions. Your thought-provoking perspective on India's economic trajectory and its place in global economy truly has enriched all of us, right from discussing pollution, tariffs, free trade agreements, role of slogans, role of institutions. I think this audience has not only gained knowledge but also experienced the real fervor of the subject. Sir, we are deeply grateful to you for sparing your time, wisdom, and presence, and patiently answering all the questions ranging from ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, and everything I think on the earth today that we can discuss about. I would also like to express my gratitude to Dr. Bhushan Kaur, wife of Dr. Manmohan Singh, for sending us her warm wishes for this event as she expressed her ability to attend the occasion in person. Her kind words and blessings mean a great deal to us. We are always indebted to our chairman, Sardar S.G.GSCC, Chadha, who is the core of GGS family, the custodian, who always lends his support, but begins the saying, with you, for you, always. And inspired the young minds with your experience and wisdom. We are really grateful to all the dignitaries and guests who have spared their valuable time and have joined us in paying the tribute to this great visionary. A special thanks to our principal, Professor Singh, for his unwavering support and encouragement in making this event a reality. Your leadership and vision continues to inspire us in organizing such impactful discussions and making our institution a true center of learning and excellence. I extend my sincere appreciation to the organizing team of the seminar committee and Center of Excellence, along with their coordinators, faculty members, and student team, who had done meticulous planning. Their hard work and commitment has ensured the success of this event and making this accessible to a wider audience, both in person and through YouTube Live. Most importantly, a big thank you to our teachers from our college as well as other institutions of our university, other esteemed guests and online attendees who have joined us and have shown their enthusiasm and active participation. Your engagement and interest have truly enriched this discussion. It reflects academic curiosity and commitment to learning that defines our institution. As we conclude today's session, let us take forward the insights shared today. and contribute towards India's journey in navigating global economic challenges and ultimately striving towards the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047. Thank you once again, all of you. Stay tuned for any more such enriching sessions in the future. Looking forward for the support and encouragement. Jai Hind. Before we formally close the session, I would request the seminar committee and the entire faculty to please join us on stage for a group photograph. I request the faculty to please join us on stage for the group photograph. I request the faculty and students from Bharati College to please come on stage for the photograph.
थैंक यू। एक से सीमेंट कर दूंगा।
हो गया।
आप अभी ऑन अच्छा हो गया। नहीं नहीं ठीक है। बताओ कुछ लगाया था। नहीं हो गया, क्या ही करना है।